This is Moon Mulligan, and this is Let's Find Out with Diego.
Are you curious about the unknown, the unexplainable? Do you find yourself intrigued by the mysterious and paranormal side of our world? Join us on an adventure into the world of inexplicable discoveries and investigations that may someday give us the final answer as to what may be behind the veil of reality. The borders of space and time have opened once again, and transmitting from the mountains of West Virginia, it's time once again for Let's Find Out with Diego. The universe is waiting for you.
On this episode of Let's Find Out, in June 2018, our guest had a remarkable UFO experience that ignited a profound exploration into the unknown realms of extraterrestrial encounters. Delving deep into the world of UFOs proved to be a challenging journey for our guest. Following years of pursuit within the extraterrestrial domain, a shift occurred. After encountering an enlightening interview featuring Lue Elizondo, this pivotal moment marked the inception of his personal odyssey towards self-realization and newfound path to discovery. All this plus more. Please welcome the man that I dubbed Cleveland Nate. Nate, my friend, welcome back to Let's Find Out, brother. I can't believe that it's been this long. It's been since episode 10. You were one of the OGs.
Well, look, I let me start by saying I appreciate you having me back. Okay. You've managed to keep going despite, I'm sure, tremendous pushback from people you never imagined would push back against you.
It was definitely an interesting journey because I didn't think the show, it started in oh my gosh, I should know this, right? In 2022. I had another podcast with a partner, didn't work out. Can't just sit on my hands and not do something. And then I started reaching out to a whole bunch of people, and I still was learning how to do all this. I was kind of nervous. And then, like I said, episode 10, you answered pretty quickly. So, yeah, I'll share my story with you. You've always been very honest with everything, and which is why we have you back. There's been some changes in your life, some different changes in perspectives, experiences. But if you don't mind, my friend, can we go back to that time for our friends, the listener that maybe haven't been listening to the show that long or haven't gone back to episode 10? Can you tell us about that experience? Because I think it's something you witnessed. It was at your brother's house, right?
Well, it was at my house. We're sitting there again right now. Okay. My house, my brother and I were sitting in the backyard. It was the beginning of June. I believe it was either June 5th or 4th, very beginning of June, and living in Northeast Ohio. Weather is fairly terrible until late May, early June, right? We had a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day. And, we decided after work, we're going to sit outside and enjoy this beautiful day. And that's when it all went down. It was obviously a life-changing moment for not just me, but for probably my entire family.
I could imagine. I don't think this is something that a large amount of people get to experience, especially something like that. I know that there'd be family histories from, lineages going down generation to generation, not only with potential UFO abductions or sightings, but we're also talking about paranormal, or maybe even cryptids of sorts. But now we're moving forward. So you've been able to take that experience, and then there was a time where were you getting together with several people as a group discussing these about UFOs and such topics?
So as an experiencer, up until that point, like I had paranormal experiences as a child. I've also had other UFO encounters as a child that I dismissed, right, as childish fantasies, as one would. I was up until that point, I was pretty atheist in my viewpoints of the materialistic world. That's all there is materialism, and that's that, right? And then that event occurred, which they call it ontological shock. But now, in the spiritual realm, there's another word, there's another like I don't know how to say that, but there's another way to say that. It's called dark night of the soul. This is where your foundational belief structure is essentially eroded out from underneath you, and you have no essentially barometer or a guide, like a compass, to point you what is real, what is not real, right? Because you were just confronted with something that you've been told your whole life is impossible. So I set out to rebuild my foundational, belief structure on truth, on honesty, on real events. But I was still like, I wanted to answer those questions, right? Like, what the hell was those things? Like, what was all of that we saw? Why did we see it? Like, obviously these things we're all told that they don't exist, but at the same time, our authorities are telling us that there's nothing to see here. Well, I saw it. I saw it. Despite you telling us all that it can't be real, I saw it. I experienced it. So you go down that rabbit hole, right, of UFO research, and I was there for a long time. There isn't a case I probably don't know about UFOs and that type of stuff, right? But like you pointed out, about a few years deep, like you get into the UFO rabbit hole, and you're just like a big, heavy truck that is stuck in the mud. And the tires just spin and spin and spin and spin and spin, and there's no real traction ever actually happening. There's more mud, right, thrown around. There's more, kernels to keep you bouncing right back and forth enough to make you think that you might be able to get out of the mud, but you never really get out of the mud. But then, like, I was rewatching some interviews, and I rewatched an old interview with Lue Elizondo, and he said, it just stood out to me immediately. It said, how do we introduce ourselves to our neighbors if we don't even know who we are? Right.
And
So, yeah, that stuck out to me.
No, I mean to interrupt you because I was gonna.
No.
That's a very deep statement. What you're saying, all true. Because I mean, it doesn't matter what subject, what conversations we have with anybody. If you don't understand yourself, how can you truly be honest with the person you're speaking to or trying to explain something to? Very interesting. Can you, for those, because this is the first time I've heard this gentleman's name, and you know a lot more about him than I do. Who's Lue Elizondo?
So he is a controversial figure within the UFO UAP narrative. According to his story, he is the former director of a program called ATIP, which is an acronym for Advanced Aerial Identification Threat Program, where they essentially categorize and potential threat levels to unknown objects operating within our airspace. That's what I understand his job to be. I know there's some controversy out there with that, and I'll let those people hammer out the details with that. But as far as I know, when this individual decided to step forward from his position because he was in protest of how they were operating under this information, because it was at the very least a flight of safety risk, he resigned in protest and decided to come forward publicly. And since then we've had congressional hearings, we've had information that was otherwise unknown to us, some video leaks, if that's what you want to call it. And I know there's some controversy surrounding all of this stuff, but when I don't have the luxury of disbelief, right, to quote Jeremy Corbell, right? Like I seen it with myself. I mean, we didn't build it. No one has rolled one out of a hangar, a cube in a sphere. No one's done that yet. And I could have hit it with a rock, and I saw it for like 10 minutes. So for me, it's conclusive, right? And I understand the public perception that it's not so conclusive, right? Because it'd be easier if everybody, could understand what's happening above them.
And with that experience, that's probably the most important part of the conversation we're going to have, because lots of things spring from that. And I'll go back a little bit, and speaking about spinning your wheels in mud, you got mud in your tire, like that. My cousin Vinny, that one of the more funny scenes in that movie.
Yeah.
With I've not known, but I've known of people, because back in Twitter and then became X, mostly on Twitter, where I can see their faces. I don't remember their name, but there was two people, especially one that was a pretty. I'm not gonna say a superstar in ufology, but he was a pretty well known guy, and I think up to a point where he basically packed it up and said, "I've had enough of this," because I feel that he believes so much that eventually, at the end of it, he says, "To hell with it. I don't believe it anymore," because nothing was going on. And I don't understand. And I can understand with that with anybody. If you were a active churchgoer for so many years, you've been disappointed with things, you automatically just discount the whole thing, whether it's UFOs, paranormal, cryptids. You get to a point to where is this all going?
That should lead you to truth, right? And what is true only for you, right? Not what you're told by me, not what you're told by the mainstream media, not what you're told by Diego, what you know to be true and factual, what you yourself have experienced and seen and know within your heart to be true. This is what actually living in truth means, right? Like you can only operate from a place that you know you've experienced these things. You've known you've seen these things. You know you've done these things. That's where I'm at now, is I live in this place of truth, of transparency. And when you exist in that environment within yourself, like these psionic abilities, that telepathy, astral projection, remote viewing, all these things are actually, that for me now it's Tuesday, right? Like that's pretty much every day for me. Like, yeah, it's natural. It's just as natural as waking up and, going to work and doing all the things you do. Like
So would it be fair then? Because when I first started reading the email that you sent me, I'm thinking, well, maybe Cleveland Nate has changed his mind and no longer believes in UFOs and these things, but it's the exact opposite. So, but in a way, so help me understand what you're trying to tell me, because I think that is very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
In spiritual communities, you'll hear a lot of things like something called ego death, right? So my experience is I actually confronted my own ego. I got to see it. I got to experience that. I had a dream, right? It was a dream, but it was more than a dream, like where I was in like this Gothic cathedral. It was like a dark Gothic cathedral. I was with two other individuals. So it was a total of 3 people. But there was like a bench, like part of the wall where there was an authoritative figure. I didn't see who this authoritative figure was, but I know that they were putting down authority upon the 3 of us. And out of the 3 of us, I was the least bad, I guess, but I dismissed myself to the restroom. Okay. And when I dismissed myself to the restroom, I said, I got to go to the bathroom. Went to the bathroom. It was a typical American type bathroom, had a couple of commodes and a men's urinal in there. And I realized that I hadn't shut the door. So as soon as I turned to shut the door, a demon just jumped on me, man, like right on me, and was just snarling and drooling on my face. It was the most terrifying thing I had experienced to that point in my life. I woke up and was in shock. I didn't know what the fuck to do. I thought, I got to go get a Bible now. Like I must be Catholic because demons are real. I was just attacked by one, right? And then I slowly came to the realization after cracking open the Bible again. I think I got to like Leviticus or something and was like, wait a minute, that demon was me. The demon was my ego. That was the lies that I tell myself, right? Those are all the things throughout my life that belong to other people, and I believe them with no evidence, no proof.
Holy shit. Okay, so this goes to a theory that I discussed with somebody a few episodes ago. It's called a man-made ghost, where you feed a certain energy, whether it's mostly negative energy, into something, that thing takes its own life. And in a way, it's almost like you split into two. You saw you at the time, and you as the ego, and that ego was trying to consume you.
But it never hurt me, despite being like right towards my flesh, man. It didn't hurt me because it couldn't. It can't. And so, since that experience, right, like you kind of go down a religious rabbit hole. Like I thought I was seeing demons, and then I realized it was me. And then you start going into more esoteric areas, right? So I started studying near-death experiencers, right? And these are the people that have had the closest experiences towards what I have had myself. I've done what's called a life review, but I've never died. I've experienced a life review, but I haven't died. As far as I know, I haven't died. You know what I'm saying? Like, but
within 100% certainty, you are here, my friend.
Right. And so actually now, oh, wow, gosh, I could go so once I realized that nasty thing was my ego, right? I wanted to obviously distance myself from being that thing. Right. So there's a wonderful person who's been essentially my spiritual teacher and guide through this process for me. His name is Grandmaster Wolf. He used to practice death. Okay. He used to die regularly in the Himalayan mountains as a monk. Right. So, for me, I always want to go to the source of the information. And so if somebody has actually died, that's the source of the information for that story. Correct.
Well, let me ask you this though, because this is not the first time, but it almost reminds me of sometimes movies are good predictors of certain things that happen. So let's talk about like flatliners in a sense, where I guess these college kids were experiencing with coming close to death, and then they see something, they come back. Explain to me how the Grandmaster did this. Is there some sort of
I can only explain how he explains it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you want to look into, he explains it much better than I can. So according to him, you have something in your neck called the vagus nerve. Okay, any disruption in that nerve causes your heart to stop. And they would literally chop that nerve and essentially stop their hearts. And then when their lips would start turning purple or something, they would wake them back up, essentially, like, revive them. And then they would essentially write down their experience in that time frame that they were deceased. And they did that 2 to 3 times a week.
That is an awful lot of times to death per week. I would imagine that would leave some sort of physical. I want to be careful how I use my words. There has to be some sort of physical scars or some sort of ailment.
Sure, but if you can heal your body, then right, because you can. You absolutely can. That's what the placebo effect is, right? Yeah, you're essentially healing your body from nothing, right? Like, of very detrimental diseases and poisons and, things that otherwise would, end in a fatal effect. And like, some people can just take a sugar pill and overcome that. Like, what is that? We just write that off. It's just the placebo effect. What do you mean just? A miracle just happened in front of you. And you're like, it's just a sugar pill.
Yeah, I think that's just scientific ways of not accepting what's really happening. In a way, I mean, if they can sell you on a cure, I mean, there's no money in saying, yeah, you can cure yourself. So,
Well, right. So I'm not saying don't go to the doctor.
yeah,
These people have spent their entire lives in an effort to help humanity and people or animals, veterinary, doctors. Like, yeah, they're doing what they need to do because that's what's guiding them spiritually. The average person doesn't want to know what another person looks like inside out, right? But
yeah, I can see
doctors
that. Yeah.
do, right? Doctors want to know how it works so they can help us fix it when it goes wrong. And that's an altruistic thing, right?
And with these, going back to the near-death experiences, and you've obviously now you've been talking to several people who have had that experience. What is the commonalities in these stories? Because there's a theory out there that you'll see what you think you'll see based upon how you were raised religiously. But my
Well,
opinion is
yeah.
the afterlife will just be the afterlife, at least within plus or minus certain percentage. We all should be seeing at least the same things.
Well, we see the same patterns, right? So let's start there. Because each individual ego is constructed differently, right? The problem becomes that you're identifying with the GPS in the car as you rather than the guy behind the wheel, right? The ego is essentially your GPS to navigate physical existence, right? Physical reality within the confines of this limiting reality that we have created for ourselves. And within that becomes, I need to fit in, right? Like I need to fit in with the other beings around me. It starts as soon as you're born as a child, right? Like you got to fit in with the kids at school, right? The problem becomes the institutions because we've built them based on what we've went through ourselves. Well, it worked for me, but did it work for you? Like, did it though? Like, we have to be honest with ourselves when things don't work, right? And this is where self-responsibility, like, again, telepathy, remote viewing, all these things, they work in love and in truth. So if you're operating from a place of love and compassion, you have certain abilities and things that others may not have, right? And when you operate in truth, with truth within yourself, that all experience is valid and equal. There's no such thing as good and evil. These things, like, this is controversial with a lot of people I speak with because they require this dichotomy of good and evil. And remove humans from the equation, where does that exist?
Right.
Right?
Because no, I mean, and I understand what you're saying. I think that there are those obviously will disagree with you, and that's fine
Oh, yeah.
because I mean we've had conversations even within when you were involved with the UFO circles that not everybody agree with everything, and that's just right, fine. So with good and evil, it's a human construct in a way because some people find certain behaviors acceptable, some people find certain behaviors unacceptable. But I think we have this thing called it's a legal term that escapes me because I went to public school. Shoot, what is it's some sort of agreement, like a social construct, is it, or
A
some sort of
social agreement, right?
social agreement where okay, we're going to take these top 10 things or 5 things and it says these are evil, the rest we're going to be okay. Obviously, murdering or doing awful things, it get kind of hairy.
Well, go even deeper because every single thing we do is a social agreement. Laws only mean what they mean because we all agree they do. Right? Money only means that it's worth anything because we all agree it's worth that. our entire society is completely constructed on concepts alone. To change our world, we merely have to change our minds. We don't have to take any rebellious, violent acts at all. We just need to go, it's not worth it anymore. If the entire 1% of world's population, right, that isn't wealthy, doesn't have mega yachts, doesn't control X, doesn't control Twitter, doesn't control the mainstream media sources you consume information from, if all 99% of us just decided for just one day to not go to work, it would cost that 1% trillions of dollars. And do you believe that they will then maybe pay attention to us? Because I have to pay my bills. I might get my gas shut off. But if no one's there to shut your gas off in the first place, your gas ain't getting shut off, right?
True. I mean,
we don't take our
the
power.
machine can't work.
So the machine can't work without us. So the change begins with the individual. We want to change the system, but the only way to change the system is to change yourself first. Be the change you want to see. Be that. You have to be it. If you don't prefer to suffer, stop choosing it.
With so many distractions in life that would get people off center in a way, because in a way, we all have certain vices that keep us busy from, I guess I like to use a certain word, from thinking. And I mean, and I'm about to mess a lot of people. I'm gonna piss off a lot of people when I say this. It's one of those things. You could be addicted to watching entertainment, sports. You could be addicted to drinking. You could be addicted to whatever it is, whether it's healthy or not. It's almost a distraction from what you should be really focusing on, which is yourself. Yeah.
It's the moment. Live right here, right now. Stop worrying about what happened to you yesterday and stop worrying about what's going to happen to you tomorrow, because all you actually have is right here and right now. Make it the best right here, right now you possibly can. And then I promise the next right here and right now will be a little bit better than the last one. And it will it will just compound until you're at a place where you feel empowered, right? Because I think that's another big thing against disclosure, because when you have a bunch of people that run around empowered, self-empowered, I don't need a leader. I don't want a leader, nor do I wish to lead anyone. I am not in a position to be a leader, right? Like I find the miracle of life each and every single day to be enough to keep me content. And I can see the miracles around me every second, every moment. I see the beings that inhabit these areas that we don't get to see normally. And they're extraordinary. And they would scare the shit out of a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. So how do you, because now, are you, what is this, your second year into this, or are you just starting with this new
about
path?
3 years in now. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, wow, it's about 3 years since I've last talked to you almost. With that, how are you receiving the download? Because where are you when this happens? Are you at home? Are you meditating at home? Are you reading books? Or is it just happening because you're opening yourself up to this information?
Yeah. So at first, we have spirit guides. Like, that's a real thing. That's a real tool, if you will, to self-empowerment. Are the guides, the other beings that, like, there's army of people behind each and every one of us, and not just people, but beings that we have yet to fully understand, I suppose, in this reality. So it's comforting in that, right? Like, you have this army, but you're still the one that has to guide the ship. And this body, this physical reality, is the ship. The downloads, at first I experienced them like that, like downloads, like this burst of information, because what you have to understand is that when you operate outside of time and space, you can only operate within the confines of the entire thing itself. Okay. So like it's a download. It could be just the answer to a very single question. Like, why am I here? Right. It's not that simple of a question. Why am I here? So you get the whole answer. Right. So I've turned the analogy into more like ordering from a sandwich shop or your favorite, little cafe or something. Right. I have the question, right? What the knowledge I would wish to know. And then I go to that cafe. I go to my spirit guides, right? But I get the entire meal all at once, right? So that's like the download. That's all of the information. I get all of the information at once, but I can't use that information until I bite it one bite at a time, right? I can only ingest that information one bite at a time until I consume the meal and I have my answer, because the answers that we look for as a confused species until like you get to the void, we don't know what questions to ask. So our questions are very broad, and with that broad question comes a broad answer, and it comes all at once. You get the whole answer because you're entitled to it. You're a divine being. We are all divine beings. All knowledge is available to you, but you get it all at once. And so it feels like a download. And then as through practice of dealing with that type of information, you see it more like you can refine your questions better, and you won't get as big of a meal every time. Right. If that makes sense.
It does, and it kind of clarifies something. Like with when I've received information, I come a couple times where it's like, oh, I finally understand something, and then sometimes that information quickly dissolves away. I don't know. I can't explain as to why. I know that when I've had my paranormal experiences, somebody said, you should journal these things and write them down.
Yeah.
Flip side of that with me is when I start writing this information down, the information no longer comes to me. I think, I don't know if it's different rules for different people, but it's almost like if you write this down, you're not going to receive anything else. So it's almost like you have to memorize this. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't know why it works like that.
It does, and it works that way because you believe it has to work that way. Because again, so we can lean into science with a lot of this stuff. You have to understand that, okay, Einstein proved that matter and energy are interchangeable. They are one and the same thing. E equals mc squared. Okay. The third law of thermodynamics: you cannot create anything, nor can you destroy anything. So if matter and energy are interchangeable and you can't create or destroy anything, I mean, what more do you need scientifically to show that you can't die, right? Your consciousness is what it is. Okay. And here's the difference. So your ego has a voice. It talks. A lot of people have an inner monologue. Not everyone does, but most people do, generally speaking. The voice is your ego. That's your ego. Okay. The thing that is aware of the voice is you. You are the awareness. You are the thing that is never touched inside of you. You are the thing that is been aware of it all, has never aged, has never gotten scuffed or scratched through it all. You are the awareness of it all. That is you.
And this inner voice. So what is the purpose of this inner voice? Because sometimes it convinces you to do pretty awful things or make bad decisions. So
because
how do we
identify as it?
And I understand that, but how do we? I'm gonna use the term stay in the straight and narrow, stay in the straight and narrow, and at least not cause harm to others.
So whenever we tell a lie, something inside knows we're telling a lie. Okay. And what is that thing that knows the truth? That is you. That is the you, and out of balance with that truth. So your ego is essentially like a wild animal that you need to train and corral, because you can't kill it. It's not alive, right? It's not alive in the sense like it doesn't, you are the consciousness driving the ego. The ego is dualistic, right? Because your ego will tell you you're the greatest thing since canned beer, and you are also the worst thing to ever exist at the same time. At the same time, right? That's how you know the egotistical self is talking to you, because I need to be great. I need to be liked by everybody. I need this many views, this many clicks. I need all of this. Right? That's your ego telling you these things, right? Because all you actually need is to be, right? Like you look at an animal, right? Do you think cats and dogs struggle with egotistical concepts like we do? No, they're just dogs and cats, right? They know they're dogs and cats. They know who they are. That's the key with us. We just need to know who we are. Good or bad. And again, because good and evil doesn't exist. But if your heart will tell you what you want, right? You want, like for you want a deeper understanding of the universe. You want a deeper understanding of your experiences. And you're doing what's driving you towards that. And through that, you've witnessed synchronicities, you've witnessed miracles, you've witnessed things that other people would just simply write off as like, oh, that's just all nonsense, right? But it's not, because all experience is real and valid, no matter if it's good or bad.
No, that's
And only
100%.
you have to define it that way. I can't define it for you that way. Only you can define it that way.
Well, that's one of the things. If we're all in a similar but different paths, and we have to define things by ourselves, how do we, in a sense, help each other without being into it for our own self?
That's exactly it. So this is how manifestation works. Is the same way as compassion works. When you're compassionate to something like an animal or a person, right? You have no expectation from that animal or that person other than I need you to get better. I need you to be more. I need you to get, like, if you're helping someone, right? You need it. It's a need within you to help. And you may be a success or you may be a failure, but you try, right? Because that's what's guiding you. That's what's telling you what you need to do, right? Once we all understand and get in balance with that, then more and more people will begin to realize, well, what I do to the person in front of me is merely a reflection of what I want done to me. So if you harm someone, that means you wish harm upon yourself. Right? That sounds like an insecurity. And so I need to forgive you in your sense of violence or your sense of anger, because it's coming from a place that even you yourself don't understand. Right?
Now, are there people out there that will never be able to go on a path this?
So,
Are they too far gone?
oh, here's the thing. Who cares? Yeah, I hate to seem insensitive, right? But you can't care about that. They've made their decisions. And if you love them, right, you allow them the consequences of their decisions. Right? I love you. I will support you in the decision. This is where we exist. We exist in creation. Creation is unconditional love. And unconditional is the part where everybody gets stuck. Right? They think there's conditions, like Hitler doesn't deserve that. Right?
I would say he does not.
I mean, you can make an argument for it, right? But I would say, who is more deserving of love than the person who believes they don't have it? right? Because that would change that person, right? When they experience that love, when they experience that the thing they're lacking that made them, that drove them to commit these atrocities, right, is the lack of that love, the lack of that support, the lack of that system. And if we had just, if each and every one of us, right, just made it a goal for every day to help one person, right, that means all 8 billion of us are taken care of.
So chain reaction type of deal.
Of course, because I take care of this person, that person takes care of that person, so on and so forth, right? And so, yeah.
Oh, so
nothing's stopping us from it. Nothing's stopping us from it but us.
Other than our ego, right? That would be that would be stopping us from doing it. So what would be, I want to say best advice, what would be step one for somebody who says, you know, listening to your words and maybe they'll do something, they might look into what Lou said and things like that. What would be the best first step for them to at least clear their mind and at least open themselves up to be on a better journey?
So I know meditation is a big thing and everybody wants to, you know, silence their thoughts. You can't do that. You can't silence your thoughts because you're alive. You're going to have thoughts as long as you exist as a physical being. Okay. So you can't silence them. But what you can do is become more and more aware of them when you meditate. Just allow them to rise up, fall, rise up, fall. Don't engage them. Once you engage a thought, it leads to more thoughts and so on and so forth, right? And this gets you focused on the moment. And when you're in the moment, car crash victims know this, like time slows down. Time becomes malleable, essentially. You can make split-second decisions that seem like, oh, you get all day to make those decisions, right? That's in the moment. You've allowed your ego to take a back seat to your awareness, right? And you can practice that and you get better and better and better at it. And then you make friends with your ego, and then your ego, you realize what it's for, right? It's essentially to drive this meat bag that we're inhabiting, right? Because we've decided as non-physical beings to have a poke at this physical existence, to grow or understand. I mean, it gets real deep, but within that confine, you have your heart tells you things, right? Like your intuition tells you things. Listen to that. You have synchronicities in your life. Well, I'm thinking about cousin Paul that I haven't talked to in 20 years, and all of a sudden cousin Paul calls you, right? What is that? Where did that come from? How did that happen? Well, that's one of those synchronicities. Or you're thinking of a book, right? Or you're thinking of a subject, and a book on that subject comes across your purview, and that's a synchronicity. Follow it. Follow the synchronicities. Follow the things that make you happy, that instill joy within you, right? Those things that you go, oh, I just have to do this, right? I don't know why. I don't know what the answer is, why I need to do it, but I need to do it. And when you operate in need, you'll see miracles. Wow, man. Wow. Just like they're only touching the iceberg, you know, the tip of it in mainstream science and academia and, you know, Twitter and all that stuff. Like they have no idea the power that each and every one of us possess. Each and every one of us. Like the aliens, right? Like these guys flying around in cubes and spheres, right? They've just had more time with this than us. That's all. They're not superior. Right? No life is superior. All life is equal, right? There are no superior beings to us, right? They just have fancier stuff. That's it. And until we can realize that collectively, right? Once we realize that collectively and we're no longer afraid, or we no longer go, oh, they're going to be our saviors, right? Because there's only two tracks on the UFO thing, right? Like, they're either here to destroy us or they're here to fucking save us. What if I told you neither of those are true? They're here to help guide us to welcome us into a broader community because they've had the time, they've experienced what we're experiencing. More and more people are going through what I've gone through, the spiritual awakening, right? And as collectively as we grow as a consciousness, as a collective humanity, as we grow, that fear will subside, and then more and more they can expose themselves to us, and more can we see our loved ones that are deceased, which we haven't even touched that, man, which I'm surprised of, because I see dead people a lot, right? Like lots of paranormal things happen around me. It's not just aliens and that type of stuff, you know?
I mean, they must really like you, though. And I'm just trying to make light of it because, you know, if you're seeing them a lot, they see that somebody worth trusting, at least having a conversation or giving you information. And that's not a bad thing.
Well, so I think we're each other's students as well as teachers, right? So there are beings that are watching us to learn, right? So how they can overcome for themselves, okay? And then there are beings that are here to teach us and guide us, okay? And we're not aware of either. We just kind of blindly, you know, with like paranormal investigations, when they go into, you know, abandoned houses and there's those noises, right? Or somebody will get touched or tapped, right? That could be a deceased person that hasn't even been born yet.
Interesting. I've never heard of that theory before.
Yeah, because everything is here and now. Everything is here and now. We have a linear perception of existence, right? Despite existence being volumetric. We observe it volumetrically, and yet we experience it linearly. We call it, you know, space-time, right? Like, oh, it, you know, cause and effect. It has to be this, you know, Marty McFly went back in time and messed with it so he couldn't be born, right? The grandfather paradox. But we don't exist in that. And that's how time travel can be real. Because I grapple with that, man. Like, I'm deep into physics and quantum mechanics, and like, according to our scientific literature, that what we understand about a linear space-time environment, practical reverse time travel is just not in the cards. It's just not, you know. But if we live in a probabilistic volumetric universe, then of course time travel is natural. It's inherent to it. You have to do it, actually.
You know, and I think it's probably one of those subjects we'll probably have to get into one day, because that's a heavy subject, man, because it would probably blow some people's minds or they're going to get confused.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we'll definitely learn about it. And let's do one thing before we go. Let's go
Sure.
back to the UFO subject, because I think at this point in our lives, I think it's been kind of beaten to death. And I mean no disrespect to anybody that writes about it or studies it or goes onto these expeditions to at least try to get them on film or camera, whatever. But I think that there's enough out there that if one does the math and say, yes, they are here, they exist, but what's it going to take in order for all of us on this planet to finally say they're real? Is it going to take a mass sighting? Is it going to be them physically knocking at your door? Because I think this whole Area 51 thing's been beaten to death. I think we're over it. We need something to that equivalent in today's time.
Sure. So you see the frustration within the UFO community already,
Yep.
right? We've had 80 years of stories from the highest level people on the planet, and nothing has fucking changed, right? We want actual evidence we can touch, we can see for ourselves. And until that happens, it's never going to change. It's going to be the truck in the mud, right? And like, as much as I'd like to laud some of these individuals, like David Grush, bro, like, come on. Like, why are we even doing anything else? Why are we doing anything else? This human being went in front of Congress and told you, me, the world, Congress, told the United States government that I have the keys to where everything is, what everything is, who's running it, who's doing it, what it is, where it's at, how much stuff. Here it is. It's all been almost 2 years, and there's been absolutely nothing towards that man's testimony. Nothing. No actionable measures towards that at all. And so right there needs to tell you it's time to stop. It's time to stop waiting for Big Brother, Big Daddy, Sky God to tell you what the fuck is happening, versus just opening your eyes and seeing it for yourself. It's like the movie Don't Look Up. No one wants to look through the telescope, right? But that information is going to save your ass, right? You need that information, okay? Because let's say that they are here on some Independence Day stuff, right? Like, they're here to just take it. Like, wouldn't the most amount of time possible to prepare for that event be like in our best interest as a species, right? Not just a nation, but as a species, right? If they were actually here to like blow up DC and stuff, right? Like, we can witness the technology. We can witness they haven't blown up our cities, right? They've done some questionable things with abductees, right? That I'm not necessarily comfortable with going, they're completely benevolent, right? But at the same time, those abductees are returned, right? A little worse for wear, but still returned nonetheless, right? And that's not the sign of a malevolence. That's at best the sign of indifference, right? Like, we're indifferent to animals we pluck out of the jungle to tag and, for research. Right. So at the worst, we're research subjects, right? Like, but we're more powerful than that. Right.
Yeah,
but we're
I was
more
thinking the very same
powerful than
thing.
that. Like,
You think?
they also
Yeah.
created us, man. You look into ancient origin stories, the Anunnaki and that type of stuff, right? There's a lot of evidence to suggest that we were actually manufactured, right? With potentially, some of their own genetic code. And with that genetic code comes some of these abilities that we are able to, access, harness. And some of us more so than others, but everybody has these abilities. It's not just a special select group of people that can do this. Like, anyone can do it. I used to think enlightenment took going to a cave in the Himalayas and washing a monk's feet for 30 years, right? Then you're an enlightened person, right? I did it from a recliner in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, if that's the case, then anyone can do it anywhere where they're at. It's all about a state of being. It's within yourself. You have the power. You are the God. You are God. Accept that. Be that. And you'll know that I don't want to hurt anything. I don't want to hurt anyone. Right? I have all this power, and I want to use this power to create more powerful things and see the stars, see all the things that we're blind to, like the amazing creatures that like are like not alien, but are right here with us. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are a lot, and we can, as we grow as beings, as individuals, we'll see more and more of them and get to interact more and more with our neighbors, right? But we can only do that if we know who we are.
Absolutely, man. And you're giving us, especially me, I mean, I can talk for myself, but a lot to think about, because these are very touchy subjects in a way, because it makes everybody uncomfortable, out of your comfort zone, what you've grown up with. But I think we can all benefit from at least pausing a little bit, just and listening to around you. You don't know what kind of information you'll get that's going to benefit your life.
Right. Exactly. Take what you need, leave what you don't. It doesn't insult me at all, if you believe me or not. If you came here for nothing and you left with nothing, you came and received what you came here for, right? If you came here for nothing, you got nothing. You came exactly what you received for, right? If you came here to learn something, and like something is like something I said, something you said, something between our interactions stirs something in someone, right? Do it. Yes. I live in the anomalous world. I live in this esoteric, like existential crisis. Like most people, yeah, it's an existential. That's Tuesday for me. Like, I'll give you one right now. Here you go. You cannot think of anything you don't already know. So that leads you to, what is imagination? If you can't think of something you already don't know, like if I tell you to picture a whooshka bubble, right? You can't, because you don't know what that is, right? Now, if I tell you to imagine what that is.
Limitless.
It's limitless. You are an infinite being. We all are.
Man, I appreciate your words there. And, I'd like to get you back on the show. I mean, I don't want to wait another, episode 10. This will be episode 96. So let's not wait 86. Is that, if I did the math right, 86 episodes, you might have you back. But
anytime, man.
Come across any more information, or you can lead us down a path to read about this, man. Come back and we'll talk about your experiences. We talked about what you've seen and who you talked to, and we'll all benefit from it.
Absolutely. Life is a beautiful, even in the darkest times, you can find the beauty in there. And if you choose to be one of those individuals that finds the beauty even in the darkest moments, you're going to go a lot farther than the opposite of that, right? Finding the darkness in all the beautiful moments. If you want your life to be beautiful, right? Be beautiful. Treat each other well. Treat yourself well. We have eternity. We'll figure it out. It's okay.
Thank you, my friend.
You are absolutely welcome, my friend.
The debut book by Diego the Podcaster, I Remember the Crib, delves into one man's extraordinary encounters with the strange and paranormal. Diego the Podcaster takes readers on a journey through a collection of short real-life stories that unveil his untold experiences. Diego offers a unique glimpse into a life filled with inexplicable events that have remained a secret until now. The readers are invited to explore the mysteries and wonders that have shaped Diego's existence, that gave birth to his podcast, Let's Find Out with Diego. Available now on Amazon Kindle. Published by Zombie Media.
Let's find out with Diego, the power of Diego Mania. All content for Let's Find Out is property of co-host Diego and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, co-host Diego, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.